We can also create our own custom item types. So in one of the previous tutorials, we created our own new item type. This is a list of all of the item types that we currently have available, but we can also implement our own to create our own custom behavior. So let's create our own new item type. So I'm going to create a new C# script. And open this up. So what we want to do first is use the devdoc.inventory-pro namespace, and then we can inherit our new type from inventory item base. This is the base class for all inventory items that you need to implement. Now in of itself it would already work, but it wouldn't really do anything different than the built-in types right now. So what we can do is override the use method. So this is called when the item is actually used or attempted to be used, and here we can define if the item should be usable or not and how it can be used. So when the base use is called, it will, let's just go here, go to definition. When it is used, it will return a number to define if the item can be used or not. So we can see here in the summary that if 0 is used, the item is actually used, but 0 items were actually depleted, so nothing is actually removed from the inventory. When -1 is returned, the item is in cooldown, so it can't actually be used. When it's -2, the item can't be used, but the reason is somewhat uncertain. So as you can see below here, we're trying to see if a collection overrides the use method. So certain collections can override the general items use method. If that is the case, we return -2, or if the item can't be used, we return -2. So -1, item is in cooldown, -2, it can't be used for whatever reason it may be. So if we go back to our item type, we can see that we get our a number back, integer. So if used is lower than 0, we simply return that failure value. If it can be used, we can say maybe we used 1 item. We can specify here how many items we actually said or should be used. So now here we can define our own custom behavior. For example, let's just do a simple debug.log, item has been used. We can maybe change the stats on our player, so why don't we do that? So I'm just going to say stat definition. That's a stat we want to change. Now we can actually use the stat definition and say we want to add a little bit of a specific value, but we can actually use the stat decorator. And this contains the value and all of the required code to add a certain value to a stat. So here we can say player manager, which is in the devdoc.general namespace. Instance, we grab the current player, the stats from the player, inventory player, stats, and we can just say set. And here we can set our stat decorator. So now, when the item is used, we will grab the stat decorator and we add these stats to our player's stats container, stats collection. So now we just wait for Unity to recompile. And there we go. Now we can open our main editor, click create item, and then our new item type is here, my custom item type. I'll just use a cube, create the new item. And as you can see, under item specific, which is our own data, we can now see that we have a stat decorator block here. So we can pick a stat, for example, strength, that we created in the previous one. We want to add 10 to it. We might want to increase the maximum amount. Let's give it a name. And click the little I, which will select it. And we can now just drag this into our world. Okay, and now we can pick it up, actually use it, and our stat should change. So we have our item. Oh, I actually got an error. Oh, our item doesn't have all of the values. So we actually forgot to set the rarity and the category, which are obviously required. No. Okay. So now we can pick up our items, open it up. Here we have our item. Just open up the character collection, use it, and now you can see our maximum strength level has actually increased. And now we can use our item, but as you see, it doesn't actually go into cooldown, and we can use it as many times as we would like. So we can actually fix that really easily. So we can say current stack size, that is the size or the amount of items that are in the current stack. We might want to deplete that by 1. So when we use the item, 1 item has been removed from the stack. We can also say 2, so every time we use the item, we lose 2 items from the stack. Then we can notify Inventory Pro that 1 item has been used, and we also want to notify the collection. In most cases, we'll want to notify the collection unless your item switches collections when you use it, like for example the equipable item. So now, when we use it, we remove 1 from the stack, and then we notify Inventory Pro that we actually used that 1 item, which will remove the stack from the inventory if it's depleted and repaint the UI. So now we can pick up the item, we can use it, and as you can see, it immediately is removed from the inventory. If I quickly duplicate this item, so we can pick up 2, you'll also see that it goes into cooldown based on the category that we defined. So now we have 2 items, I click it, and the other one goes into cooldown because both reside in the category food. However, we can still do a whole lot more. Maybe we want to show some extra information. Let's say if I hover over the item, you can see it has a buy and sell price, but maybe we don't want to show this information, or maybe we don't want to show the category. Maybe we want to show completely different information. We can actually do that as well. So if we go into our item type and type override get info, we can override the information that is returned, that is shown in the tooltip. So if we look into our get info method, you can see that we're returning the weight, the required level, the category, the buy and sell price, and the properties that belong to, the stats that belong to this specific item. So maybe we don't want to show any of this. So maybe we just want to say a new linked list that is just empty. If we return this, we won't actually show anything in the tooltip, except for the item and a name and a description, which are there by default in the UI prefab. So as you can see, the item is shown, the description is currently empty, so it can't be shown, and the icon. But we can also return our own information here. So if we quickly go and look into in the original getInfo method, we can see that we have a list, we add certain info to that list, and eventually we return it, which is then later used. So I'm just going to copy this, paste it in, and return it at the end. So maybe we want to show the weight, or let's say, yeah, why not show the weight? And we want to remove the category and the required level. So now we can just show this information. When we go back and start it again, you'll see that we'll only show the weight of the item. There we go.